Sometimes when I'm thinking about us, before we got lost and we parted, back to back we would carry on and we'd do anything for what we started. But this time we could break. I'm running dry, everything's the same. We'll try tonight, but this time we're not safe and sound. Not safe and sound. What if I'm no good for you? What if you're no good for me? Yeah. What if I'm no good for you? What if you're no good for me? Yeah. Sometimes when I'm reasoning about us, I know you got me, it's so effortless. Back to back we would carry on and we'd do anything for what we started. But this time we could break. I'm running dry, everything's the same. We'll try tonight, but this time we're not safe and sound. Not safe and sound. What if I'm no good for you? What if you're no good for me? Yeah. What if I'm no good for you? What if you're no good for me? Yeah. What if I'm no good for you? What if you're no good for me? Yeah. What if I'm no good for you? What if you're no good for me? Yeah. What if I'm no good for you? What if you're no good for me? Yeah. What if I'm no good for you? What if you're no good for me? Yeah. What if I'm no good for you? What if you're no good for me? Yeah. What if I'm no good for you? What if you're no good for me? Yeah. What if I'm no good for you? What if you're no good for me?
What if? What if it was the FPV news? It is! Yay!
It is. It is. We're back. And that's not always the case because lately we've been on and off, but we're back today. We're back on a Tuesday. To
Yeah.
let people know about the FPV news. Catch
Yeah.
up on all the latest.
All the happenings in the world of FPV. It is good to be back with you to catch up on the stuff that's going on. We have it's not our most packed show ever, but I mean, we do have a story about chargers lighting on fire and burning people's houses down, so that's exciting. And we are finally going to address the questions people have been asking about the Chevron Defense and what it might mean for the future of remote ID in the U.S. And I want to be really clear that we're not going to give you an answer you're going to like, but we are going to talk about it. Well, I am anyway. Blunty's going to just sit there and look grumpy because he doesn't think we should talk about it. Anyway, I'm getting ahead of myself. Let's talk about chargers that light on fire and blow up people's houses in a segment we call public service announcements. Little things that we think you should know, even if maybe they don't affect you. But if they do, well, in this case, your house might light on fire. Am I overselling it?
I don't know, maybe a little bit, but it's okay. The first PSA we have is about HTRC C240 chargers. Something we haven't really seen happen before is the U.S. Consumer Product Safety Commission is warning consumers that they need to stop using this charger due to fire and burn hazards, risk of serious injury and death, obviously from the safety of the charger. They've had reports from users. There are 32 reports of fire and other thermal incidents, including 5 reports of significant property damage and 1 report of injury. And they've got listing for information about the defective chargers on the page. We've got links to all the stuff we talk about in the show down in the show notes, in the description in the YouTube. So if you need to check those out, you can definitely see exactly the information there.
And from the reason I thought this was worth covering in the news, Blunty, is like, because like, you know, people light their houses on fire with LiPo battery chargers. Oh, I'm not going to say all the time, but more often than you would hope. And it's like bad when it happens, but it's not like, oh, everybody, you know. But number one, I thought this was newsworthy because it's the first time I'm aware of that, like, a non-FPV agency like took notice and went, hey, there's this charger that's dangerous, don't use it. And it made me think this must be like an exceptional number of fires.
Yeah. I mean, 32 is what they've listed, and they say for other thermal incidents or reports of fire in HTRC products, there's 148 total incidents. So they're basically saying, you know, you do what you want with that information, that sort of thing. But with this specific one, you should not use it because there's been enough reports. My thought process on this is just that, like, this is probably the case for most Chinese chargers that you're going to order on AliExpress or Banggood. Like, it shouldn't be crazy. It shouldn't be surprising for you to see a memo about a cheap Chinese charger from somewhere lighting things on fire. It should be assumed by you, and you should not be using a cheap Chinese charger. You should be using a name brand known charger.
Right.
We're spending hundreds of dollars on our drones, an individual drone. You can buy a real charger that you know will not light on fire and was built properly. That's where I'm at with this. So this should be, if you need it, the wake-up call to buy a real charger. Don't buy the crappy charger that you got off of AliExpress or Banggood or whatever. Buy one that you know is good.
How do you know? Like I think you just have to know that there are some brands that are, like, the brands that come to my mind are ISDT. And obviously every company has some products with a defect. Nobody's 100% perfect. But there's ISDT is really, really top of the list. There is HOTA, H-O-T-A, which is the same company as HobbyMate. They seem to be really top of the list. And I waffle on Toolkit RC because, like, I don't know anybody who's had fires with Toolkit RC. Again, someone in the chat will be like, I did. You know, there's always one. I don't know that, but I have had some Toolkit RC chargers that, like, came miscalibrated from the factory or seemed to die sooner, you know, for no reason. And I was like, huh. But then again, you've got guys like Evan Turner and 533 who choose Toolkit RC for their branded chargers, and lots of racers seem to swear by them. So I guess they kind of get on that list, I suppose. What else could you do?
Yeah, but if you're buying, like, if you're buying the same charger that Evan Turner is selling, or, you know, that similar model, right, from the same company, that's at least a step up from a Chinese brand on AliExpress or Banggood. Yeah. Like, nobody who does a lot of FPV that I know has ever used an HTRC charger. The people have them. They've been used. Some people around the hobby have them, but no one who I know who's been long-term cares about quality and uses a good charger, like, calls out HTRC. Yeah, like, like you talked about, there's brands that we know from the FPV hobby that our retailers sell, and if you have issues with them, you can return to, like, retailers in the hobby. I think you should be using one of those that's, like, on your list or on other people's lists that are known in the hobby to, you know, have good things, you know, like, show good products. So
yeah, okay.
Like, vet your purchase is all I'm saying. Like, this thing has a bunch of power going through it. It's generating a bunch of heat, and it has the ability to light things on fire. So as well as you should be charging outside, watching it while you're charging, doing all the other things we talk about all the time in different places, you should also be using something that's quality and doesn't really have the risk of doing it. I
should also say, those aren't the only good charger brands in the world. They're just the ones that I'm most familiar with in the world of FPV. For example, iCharger, Progressive RC's brand iCharger are very, very good quality chargers. They're a little more expensive, and that's why I've always shied away from them, but they're very good quality. There's brands from other domains like surface vehicles. I mean, I'm sure that there are many companies making good chargers. You just want to get, like, one that has a reputation and isn't just like some Chinese company that popped up out of nowhere and does, you know, and is just selling on Amazon or AliExpress or something.
And people are saying ISDT is a Chinese brand, right? But you can buy it from Race Day Quads and know that it's not a clone.
This is not. By the way, I said this in one of my reviews. I said a cheap cut rate Chinese bind and fly that's going to fail on you. And someone in the comments was like, "What do you mean? What are you saying about China? Lots of good stuff comes out of China." I know that. If I say a cheap, shitty, terrible, awful, dangerous Chinese charger, That doesn't mean that I think all Chinese chargers are all of those other things. Okay? But if someone did want to make a cheap, shitty, terrible piece of electronics, they would manufacture it in China. Obviously they would. And so that's why the word China is in there, not because I have anything against things that are made in China. Lots and lots of amazing things, including ISDT chargers and probably iChargers, come out of China. Nothing against China. China.
Yeah.
Anyway.
And then Startup Barfest asks, how do you know many are counterfeit even on Amazon? I would say, at least in the U.S., we order from companies that we know are importing products that are legitimate.
Right.
Race Quads, Get FPV, Rotor Riot, are going to have legitimate chargers that they've vetted the sources from and know that they're not buying a lot of fakes. And if they did happen to buy a lot of counterfeits, you'd know 4 days later when they found out they accidentally sold them and got them back.
For the record, I don't think that counterfeits are as prominent as people imagine they are. And again, I can't speak to your individual experience. I know of a couple cases, like Rush VTXs put out a paper talking about counterfeit VTXs. I know there was a time when there were some counterfeit Crossfire receivers a long, long time ago. I think that actual counterfeits are more rare. And a lot of times what people get are just I don't know, could the factory have run some on the weekend? Maybe. I don't know. I mean, I guess that's where counterfeits probably come from. Anyway. Okay. That's it for that story, right? We got one more PSA?
Yeah, just a quick one for you. Don't forget, today and tomorrow are Prime Day. So if you do have things you're considering ordering on Amazon, maybe you have a direct store from iFlite. I think they have a store on Amazon or a couple different companies. It is Prime Day today and tomorrow. So go check out the things you would normally buy.
What does Prime Day mean?
Then grab it.
I feel dumb for asking.
Amazon Prime Day is basically just like a giant discount day. They incentivize all the retailers and sellers on Amazon to do huge discounts, and then they advertise those discounts for a couple days. So today and tomorrow are the giant discount days. So if you're going to order something on Amazon in the next month or two, it behooves you to go check out Amazon pricing on things. That's where we're at. Okay.
Let's go. I'm going to look right now. Ooh, Apple Watch Series 9. Buy Roomba Robot J7. Oh, yeah. All right, I'll take care of that after the live stream. Okay, moving to our first real story of the day.
Yeah.
No, I didn't do the titles correctly. I suck. Hold on. I can fix this.
Our first real story is about Caddx. Caddx has made a statement about Walksnail promises. We talked a little bit the last show that we did about Madstech's video where he, was saying, where's all this Walksnail stuff? Where's all this, where you're promising all this stuff and you're doing a grassroots sort of thing and you're getting to all the users and where's the updates? Where's the stuff?
And just to remind people who may not remember, when the Goggles X came out, this is what he's complaining about. When the Goggles X came out, one of the selling points was the modular radio bay, which meant that you could take the radio board out of the Goggles X, and they said they were going to release a new goggle board with a new chipset that had 20 kilometers of range, and it was coming in the far future date of August 2024.
Couldn't remember.
I remember. Yes. Well, that's coming up. Oh, it's 2 weeks to August. I can't wait to put that new board in my Goggles X. Oh, crickets, crickets, crickets. And, okay, well, that takes a long time. That's hard to do. A new board? My goodness. Well, what about the Wi-Fi Android app that they also said they were going to do? And to be fair, they just said coming in the future, but it hasn't happened. Seems like you could have banged together an Android app, Caddx. So people they were like, Caddx, where are the things you promised us? And so Caddx replied, right? Is that it?
Yeah, pretty much.
Oh,
I mean,
amazing.
They were like, hey, we're not going to be, we're trying not to be quiet, I guess is a way to put it.
Yeah, communication goes a long way, right?
Yes, I would say so.
Well, let's see what they had to say.
All right. Basically, hey, we've been busy. R&D team's working around the clock. We're trying to fulfill all the promises that we gave you. But we can finally announce that Goggle X's head tracking and compatible analog modules have been developed. So yeah, I mean, if you were excited about head tracking and new analog modules, which I will say the analog modules are like,
but
because
wait.
the goggles doesn't use normal analog modules well.
Wait. Okay, I agree with you about the analog module, but two things here. First of all, Caddx, nobody asked for head tracking. I mean, someone out there is happy about the head tracking. That wasn't one of the. It's like you said you were going to give me a new module, and you said you were going to give me an Android app, and it's like, would you accept head tracking?
Yeah.
It's like, no, that's not what I'm asking about. But number two, new analog module. Great. Where can I buy it?
Yeah.
I can't. In other words, more empty promises with 9 months ago you promised me X, and now I don't have X, and as consolation, you promised me Y. I still don't have any of the things.
Yes. Pretty much. Very true. Yeah, it's also, I love the picture that they have. It's solved. It just says solved.
Yeah, problem solved. Let's put that right next to George Bush's mission accomplished. Caddx, problem solved. We've been working so hard, and this is right up there with Orca. Oh, we have a new announcement. It's a joystick. Wait, no, that's not what we wanted. How could they think that this is what people were? Guys, I'm sorry. We've been working so hard, but I think you'll be happy to learn that we finally got a head tracker. Hey, I'll say this for him. They didn't promise us the head tracker and then not deliver for 9 months. They were just like,
that's true.
Oh, by the way, guys, we give you a head tracker. Enjoy.
But, I mean, yeah. You say that, but I mean, technically, the head tracker's also not out yet, right?
I thought they said they updated the gyro in the goggles. I think they just swapped the chip is my read on it. So it's already in some goggles that have been manufactured. Sorry.
Okay. Gotcha. It says this upgrade allows you to easily add the board externally for compatibility with analog VRX and head track. No matter when you bought, show us the proof of purchase and you get your new board for free when it's released.
It's not built. It says we improved the gyro. I assumed it meant the gyro inside the goggles.
I think it means this external board. I mean, that's
oh my god. There's no product link. There's nothing.
Yeah.
They're like, hey, we did this thing. You can't have it, and we're not going to show it to you. Oh my God! All right, we don't need to rant about this for hours, but seriously, the issue is that you said you were going to do a thing, and then crickets, and you're going to address that issue by saying you did another thing, and crickets. This is the George Costanza approach to product development. You know,
it pushed you away enough to think they were doing something. You know what I mean? Like the statement was enough for you to go, oh, they must be changing the gyro and the goggles. This must be
This is such a George Costanza thing. Like, George is supposed to be working on the Wilson project, and 6 months of not working and getting paid and sleeping under his desk, his boss calls him in and says, where's the Wilson project? And he goes, I'm sorry, sir. I've been working so hard on the Jones project. And the boss says, well, where's the Jones project? And he's like, I'll get that right to you, sir. And then he sleeps under his desk for 6 more months. I've just written an episode of Seinfeld. You're welcome. Let's move on.
Okay. Next up, from companies that make promises and don't necessarily deliver in a timely fashion, Orca has a story in the news.
Well, we're hot tonight.
And if you thought it took Walksnail a long time to reply about the status of their project that didn't happen, Orca took 3 years.
3 years.
Yes. But we finally, after the fake things that were in a box at CES to now.
I remember.
We've had 3 years. Pepperidge Farm remembers. For people who don't know, Orca makes goggles. I think people know the Orca FPV goggles. But Orca also makes products for FPV, like they made a controller that nobody wants to use. And they absorbed the Ghost system through the purchase of Immersion IRC, or the merging of Immersion IRC into Orca.
Oh, here we go. I got it. From Dingbat. This is from Dingbat FPV. Thank you, Dingbat FPV, for not copy striking me. This was CES 2020, maybe? I think it was 2020. CES 2020, Orca went and showed these video transmitters a 5.8 gig, a 2.4 gig, and I think a 5G one, if I remember right. And these were going to be their HD video transmitters. And people went, when can I buy it? And I went, don't hold your breath. As I always do. That's not a dig on Orca or Walksnail. Whenever a company shows a product and people like are creaming themselves over it, I'm like, until I can swipe a credit card and you give me one, shut the F up and don't be excited. And I have been right more often than I've been wrong with that philosophy.
Yeah. So basically, you know, they say in their post here, the short version is, we're working on it, but it's probably not going to be what you expect.
We made a head tracker.
Yeah, exactly. This is strangely like the last thing we read.
No,
just a lot longer.
This is honestly, I have more respect for this reply because they're straightforward and it feels like they're being fairly honest, you know, and addressing the criticism head on. And so, you know, kudos to them.
I agree. Yeah, it does feel extremely honest, and maybe not in the way people want, though, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Basically, I will summarize. You should go read this if you care at all. But my general summary here is that, like, hey, DJI is really good. They're still really good. They keep being really good, and they're making new chips, and they got way more money than we do, and they're going to keep being really good. FPV market for consumers is tiny. Those two combinations of things make no sense for a company to make a digital FPV system inside of FPV. Right?
Yep.
There's no money there. And I agree with that.
Orca's philosophy, as I understood it from day one, was that they were going to... that they were sincere FPV hobbyists and they sincerely wanted to support the FPV market, but knowing that the FPV market was very small, they wanted to also find ways to sell FPV for inspection and you know, other places to sell FPV devices. And that the FPV market would both benefit from that investment by being able to buy like really good goggles that are better than FPV hobbyists alone could afford to finance, but also kind of act like a test bed where the things they learned from the FPV market got filtered out. And that was going to go both ways. So to have them then say, it turns out the FPV market is really small, it's like, well, I mean, you knew that going in. But I think they hoped that they could make a digital video system work off the backs of that, and they found that they couldn't. And I don't, you know, that doesn't surprise me. It's hard.
Yeah, I agree. I think part of the problem is just the silence for so long, you know?
Yeah.
But it is at least nice that we're hearing something instead of just continued silence and then no product release, which is kind of where it would be. But something they explain is basically like, you know, the first generation is going to be more expensive than DJI. It's going to be a big, bulky box probably for commercial applications. Like, it won't be meant for us. It'll be expensive. It'll be meant for enterprise data links. And then they're going to see what they can do about making something for us. But, you know, that's not necessarily something that's guaranteed. You know, like they talk about, you know, you got to do R&D. You got to have ASICs. Yeah. You got to, like, there's things you got to do to actually compete with DJI if you really want to compete with DJI. And that takes funding from other places. So
and I mean, I respect the honesty. It feels to me, they say, well, we haven't given up on the consumer market. You know, we're still gonna. And the way I read it, like when you have a company that's really devoted to the consumer market, I think you can tell. And it feels to me like Orca's focus is that they're going to make products for the commercial market. And if consumers want to buy them, that's cool as well. But it doesn't seem like they're being driven by the demands of the consumer market, although that's more and more true for everyone these days as the demands from the commercial market, you know, become greater and greater. So I don't think that's really, you know. I love this image that Surgeon, I believe that message came from Surgeon. I love this image he sent with it. Like, you can't get more honest than that.
Yes, it's not solved.
Right. So, so kudos to Orca. You know, keep making good stuff, and
I'll just say the other thing we you know, I mentioned Orca owns Immersion IRC, or at least his IRC got absorbed into Immersion, into Orca, and with that, the Ghost link. One of the comments here says, we will still be present in FPV racing, although I'm still 100% convinced Ghost is the best control link out there. A vast portion of the community loves the open source solutions. I'm just going to say this, we hear you. And we still owe you guys the next generation of lap RF, which we haven't reported on, but there have been pictures of lap RFs getting completed. Like 8 ways.
That's their lap timer. Yeah.
Yes, getting 8 ways getting completed in a factory. So I suspect we'll see 8 ways go up for sale in the next few months.
There's a lot of race organizers who would love that. I mean, the 8-way lap RF is a damn good timing system. Certainly, it's been out of stock for so long that a lot of people have moved to things like frickin' rotor hazard lap timer. But nevertheless, it would be nice to have another option out there.
Yeah. So it's interesting to hear them, do some kind of, mentioning open source and saying they hear us. That's an interesting development, and hopefully that bodes well for their progress and where they go.
Yeah.
So check out that post if you want to get all the details. It's obviously a long message by Sir John, but good to see their information about where they're going.
Before we go to the next story, I want to just briefly address this comment from 661 FPV, who asks, why did the Ladrib interview not make the news? Nobody submitted that. So for those who don't know what he's talking about, Drew Camden, Ladrib, did an interview with Dax Neal is the guy's name. Apparently there's also a singer named Dax Neal, so if you search for it, you're going to get a whole bunch of stuff that isn't related. And it's like an 1.5 hour long interview where Drew talked about Rotor Riot, the relationship to unusual machines, the marketing to the military that caused people like Madstech and Bachgrinder to respond, and calls for a boycott and all that stuff. We decided, Blunty and I both agree that we're not going to cover that on the news, because ultimately, if you want to know about that, then go watch the interview and see what Drew has to say and make up your mind about how you feel about that. Other than saying this happened, go watch it if you want to. Like, Blunty and I both have opinions about that. There are personal opinions, and this is a thing where each person is going to make up their mind about how they feel, and I don't have any desire to make my opinion more important than yours by making you listen to it here. I mean, my opinion, there are times when I would do that, just not on this topic. So that's why we're not covering it on the news. Not because it's not notable or worthy, just you can go watch it if you want to, and that's all we have to say about that.
Yep.
Okay. Next up. Oh, hey, what better time to talk about Rotor Riot than now? Rotor Riot just this morning released an American-made flight controller, and this is newsworthy because normally our policy is that new products in and of themselves are not news. It has to be special in some way, and I thought this is special because it's made in America, for whatever that means. It is, it's $58. That's actually a good price, and I guess they're having it on sale or something because it's only $49.50. It's $50. That's actually a pretty fair freaking price these days. It hurts to say. Used to be able to get flight controllers for $25-$30, but there you go. The Rotor Riot Brave flight controller. It's not a review, but we got plugs, we got solder pads. So each connector is both a plug and a solder pad. BMI 270 gyro. I think it's a pretty solid gyro. Good results. And I just think it's worth mentioning. I know there are people who will criticize and say, well, a lot of the components probably come from China, although, Bosch is a German company. That's not Chinese. But I think we're going to see more and more moves to diversify the supply chain, if you will. And it's nice that, I've always been proud of Rotor Riot for making their bind and flies in a warehouse in Orlando that I've physically been in and seen the people there building. And, it's just nice to know that, people like me are getting jobs and they're supporting the local economy, yada, yada, yada. And so I thought that was noteworthy and newsworthy. And I just want to let you guys know. You can go check it out if you decide it's worth buying. Also, though, Brain FPV. Brain FPV is like the hipsters of FPV because Brain FPV has been manufacturing their Radix line of flight controllers in the U.S. for years, before it was cool. And I feel like this story would be incomplete. In fact, I actually reached out to Jennifer Menas, one of the two owners of that company, and said, hey, I just was thinking, You need to get credit where credit's due. Rotor Riot's going to get a lot of press for, we're making a flight controller in the U.S. And Brain FPV's been doing it for years. And, of course, the thing about Brain FPV that always gave me a little pause is they don't have standard Betaflight targets. You have to get the Betaflight targets from them because they have a custom OSD chip on it. Anyway, we're getting in the weeds. And so I think that's held them back a little bit because you can't just flash Brain FPV from the Betaflight flight controller, or the Betaflight configurator.
The other issue is they decided on a premium price, right? They've got an 8.7 with graphical OSD and that basically shot themselves in the foot for price, but they may have decided to do that based on margins.
But
I think the reason you never hear about them because they're they were the only USA made flight controller, but they're $100. So the only people buying them are people that require, pretty much anyway, are people that require a flight controller made in the US. So
yeah, Rotor Riot's. And by the way, I have no effing idea how Rotor Riot's selling a USA made flight controller at this price. In fact, it's enough to make one suspicious.
Well,
I'm not throwing accusations. I'm just saying that's a suspiciously low price. So, it's really they're doing the hat trick here.
They're Rotor Riot, like we've discussed before, is owned by Unusual Machines. Unusual Machines is, Red Cat has a large shareholder stake in Unusual Machines and Rotor Riot. And there's so many names now. Rotor Riot and Fat Shark were sold to Unusual Machines, traded for stock from Red Cat. So I just think it's worth considering because Red Cat owns Teal and does military contracts and things like that. Like, if somebody knows how to do Made in America, the cheapest and easiest and most efficient way, it will be a company like Teal, who is basing shareholder profits off of trying to sell American-made drones, right? So I'm sure they have their foot in the door or their whole leg in the door, right, to do something like this. So if they can find a way to do it cheaply, who knows? Maybe they're buying parts off the line that they're using for Teals or something, right? Like we don't know anything about the relationships that are happening here to make these prices this low. We could just see what they are and make speculations. So
anyway, but it would be irresponsible to make speculations.
Yes.
Jory says, "Why would the same group of people need so many names?" I don't understand business. I don't pretend to understand business.
I think U.S. business is the reason.
Yeah. I guess what I'm saying is I have no reason to believe that what looks like shady, sort of weird money shuffling stuff is actually any weirder than just what goes on every day and I don't notice because I don't pay attention to how like companies and businesses work in the U.S. So.
Absolutely.
All right. Okay. All right.
Next up, we've got a cinematic. This is definitely one we cannot play on the news.
No music, huh?
No music for you. This is definitely one you should go check out. This is the first music video I've ever seen made entirely of FPV shots.
Entirely?
Entirely.
Wow.
I believe every single shot is FPV.
Okay, this is going to be great for me because my policy is that I never show the whole video because I want people to go watch. I want them to go give clicks to the creator, and I don't play the music because I don't want to get a copyright strike. And in this case, we have a 4-minute long song, so you really should go check it out. Like, we're not going to get the full effect, but that's how we're going to do it here. The link's in the video description. After the stream's over, definitely go check it out. Let's just take a look, get a little taste, though. Ooh, nice. Okay, I'm imagining the music. Ooh, that's a low shot. That's low. Oh, that's low, buddy. That's low and fast. That's a little higher. Oh, that's a nice shot. I'm digging that shot. Okay. Nice stabilization. I don't find the stabilization distracting. It's smooth as heck. What's this guy flying? Whee!
This is Andre.
Big zoom in there.
FPV. Andres Aguilera Morales or Morelos.
Yeah.
He's credited in the credits of the video.
Beautiful. Oh, man.
And there's not another camera person. There's just 2 second unit FPV guys.
So is the whole video just FPV shots like this? It's not like I'm going to fly a drone around a person who's rapping? I mean, I can't hear the music because it's muted.
Correct. Okay. It's almost like a freestyle video, but they built the freestyle video to fit in the music that they wanted for the music video. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
that was
like
a good transition.
typically we think of like maybe you fly to a song and then try to match it up later or something like that. But like this seems to have all been specifically filmed for, you know, this song and this group.
I'm sorry. Is that
sort of
was that 3D? Was that 3D or was that a trick? That looks like 3D.
Oh, I don't know.
That has to be
That's
3D.
probably 3D, right? Yeah.
That has to be 3D. Very nice. Yeah. Oh, very tasteful. I'm impressed. Someone put 3D into something, and it wasn't like every time people do 3D, it's like, "Hey guys, I'm doing 3D," you know.
Right.
And that could be fun, but like maybe it wouldn't make sense in like a music video.
Yeah.
Very nice. Very nice.
Pretty neat. Yeah, I think that stuff's cool. We're going to see more and more of that stuff with FPV. Probably not all FPV. I think a lot of videos will just do better with those accentuating shots and things with FPV. But yeah, cool to see that stuff.
WKFPV, it wasn't inverted image because it flipped upside down and then it reversed and went back up. I don't think it's reverse shot. No. Hold on. 2 seconds, Blunty. I know you want to move on. I got to argue with people on the internet, though. You know I love it. Look, hang on. Okay, this looks like a reverse shot. Fine. Wait, right here. This cannot be a reverse shot. That could not have been a reverse shot. It literally thrust the opposite direction. That's my opinion. I'm sticking to it. All right, that's Baby by Fortet, and there's a link in the video description if you want to check it out.
Yeah.
All right. Moving on to events.
Yeah. And the first event is Tyrantt Pro Whooper Freestyle Bootcamp 101. And if you are the kind of person who's like, hey, I kind of want to do like iGal or something, but I don't really know, you know, do I really want to get into iGal? If you don't know what iGal is, it's International Game of Whoop. It's a big thing you do online to participate with people. And Tyrantt, in the same way, has a thing where you can participate from anywhere in the world. You can join this freestyle boot camp. It's free to participate. There's 10 weeks of training, and you basically get assignments and different things that you're going to do, and then submit your videos for this boot camp. So you can kind of maybe get better and learn freestyle as you progress, and then you know, be with other people who are also progressing. There's weekly challenges. There's prizes. All kinds of stuff.
I'm gonna at least start participating in this just because it sounds awesome. Yeah. So I guess I should register. Nah, I'm not going to register. I don't care about the prizes. I'm not here to win prizes. I'm just here to have fun.
I will say,
I could use a freestyle boot camp.
Yeah, this starts on July 25th, so plenty of time to join in. The other thing I want to shout out is I often am upset because we go, like, we'll just show the things and I don't complain. But a lot of the events we show, like, it's kind of hard to get information. Like, you go to the page and you're like, what is actually going to happen here? Or what's the dates? Or what's actually, you know, like, you kind of get various information a little bit, maybe like half a sentence. You got to go ask somebody. You got to know a person who's going, right?
Or be on the Discord.
Or be on the Discord,
something.
right? Join somewhere. This website exactly details everything. And then he's got an even more detailed page. That's the second link that you can go to that digs in even more detailed and describes exactly what everything will be. Breakdown by week, registration, mentorship, everything. I just got to say, I'm really impressed by how detailed the breakdown is. And if you can't figure out what's going on, I think it's probably on you.
Okay, I only have one thing to say, though, about since you brought up the website, I'm going to, guys, resist the frickin' urge to frickin' don't mess with my UI. Don't turn my mouse. That's my mouse. Don't turn my mouse into a frickin' quadcopter.
It's very like 98, 2001, right? Like,
cool. You learned JavaScript. Just because, why don't you play music in the background too and have a pop-up?
When I made my first website, I'm 33. When I made my first website about Starcraft Revolution .tk.
Is it still up?
No, definitely not. The first thing I did was find a JavaScript that made the word Starcraft Revolution go around the mouse cursor. And then as soon as you went to the website, it would just circle the mouse cursor the entire time. And that was so cool.
I will kill you. I will murder you.
It was so cool.
I hate when people mess with my UI.
But you remember how it was back then? It was just all HTML and frames, right?
I know,
So we're like,
I know.
I can get something other than frames and text and like a picture that takes a while to load.
I remember writing web pages by hand in text in Notepad.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Yep.
Good times.
I remember. Partridge Farm remembers. You guys have no idea. I was a coder though. So writing HTML was just another language to me.
HTML was a means to do anything for me.
Yeah.
It was like,
Yeah.
So, all right.
Okay. We got another event.
We do have another event, and that's Castle Crash. We've talked about Castle Crash before, and Castle Crash is coming up again August 30th to September 2nd. And we're doing a special shout out for Castle Crash today because they want volunteers. If you sign up as a volunteer, you will get a limited edition staff t-shirt. You just need 3 2-hour shifts, and you can sign up for a variety of places there. And you get access to Castle Crash if you do that. So
Nice.
They are still looking. We got an email earlier today or this morning from Fly High saying they want more volunteers. Please go sign up. So if you want to go to Castle Crash and travel's not the problem, it's just paying for the ticket, then you can certainly volunteer and get a shirt and hang out with the staff. And it's a good time.
I would also like
FPV, Ciotti,
sorry.
Shelby, Ken Heron, Bach Grinder, and other people will be there just to shout out.
Nice. I'd like to point out that this drone also must be a 3D drone because of the angle of the aptitude. You can tell from the velocity vector that it must be thrusting, and it is also 3D. So we got a lot more 3D in this episode.
Very true. Very true.
All right. Okay. Oh, it's time for the rant. Is it time for the rant?
It is time for the rant. That is
Hold on, I
the
have
show
to find
lineup.
the
It's
rant.
time for the rant.
I wish we had little music stingers for each of the bits. I should make them using my AI music thing. A little 5-second stinger. How to get into this. You may have heard about the Supreme Court doing a thing called Chevron Deference. And the reason we're talking about this is because a shocking... So first of all, I almost never get people emailing me about Supreme Court rulings, for which I am thankful because that's not my wheelhouse. And the reason people are interested in this is because it has to do with the ability of federal regulatory agencies like the FAA. Turns out they are one of them. It has to do with the ability of federal regulatory agencies to promulgate rules, shall we say, or to enforce rules. And a whole bunch of people heard, you mean the Supreme Court did a thing related to federal regulatory agencies? Does that mean that remote ideas canceled everybody? The Supreme Court saved us all. And we want to say, basically, no, that's not what it means. It's not that simple. And what does it mean? Blunty, I know you're waiting to weigh in on this.
I'm not a lawyer, so I have no idea.
Right. That's our point.
That's where I'm at.
I'm also not a lawyer, but I will say a little more than Blunty just because, that's why this is a rant and not a news story. Just to make it really clear that I'm just shooting off my mouth. Definitely, I've watched a couple legal podcasts about Chevron, so, I know a thing or two. Definitely, this relates to the ability of regulated entities to try to challenge regulations. If there is somewhere an entity that believes that a regulatory agency is regulating them and wants to try to make them stop, this changes the landscape of how they might approach that situation. But the exact way it does that is complicated and remains to be seen because, they've been doing, and it's not as simple as, well, the FAA can't do remote ID anymore. To make that a little clearer, I point you to this Reddit comment, always a source of good information, which says, the situation is way more nuanced than people are making it out to be, right? There are many ways that courts could elect to defer to agencies. The Chevron Deference says that the court must defer when there's ambiguity. Well, when is there ambiguity? Who knows? Who decides if there's ambiguity? The court. Oh. Courts must. Anyway, so... Oh, sorry about that. This in no way means that remote ID is canceled. In theory, maybe, if someone were to sue the federal government to try to get remote ID canceled, maybe in some way this decision would affect the legal arguments that they make, but maybe not. And even if it did, it's no guarantee they would win. This is not cut and dried, and as so many things are. So now we've addressed Chevron Defense. Great.
All right.
This live stream clip will get 1 billion views. I promise you. Maybe not 1 billion.
All right. Do we have any super chats?
Oh, I don't know. Blunty, someone's asking about Quad Mafia FPV Palooza and why we stiffed them by not mentioning them. It's because you hate them, right? Oh, was I not supposed to say that on stream?
Uh-huh. Yeah, I mean, I will just say... Hold on, let me just double check. Yeah, we talked about Quad Mafia FPV Palooza on the last show we did, which was July 2nd.
Oh, yeah. Okay, great. So we did it last week. That's why we're not covering it this week. You're welcome.
Yeah, the last time we did a show. Yeah.
But also you hate them. Okay. No super chats. So let's go right into It's Barely News.
It's barely news is where we're at in the show now. This is stuff we might talk for a long time about, but probably won't and didn't think was good to fit in the main show. The first one we've got is a rocket drone hybrid, which is interesting. Definitely not something I've really tried before, especially with modern flight controllers. This guy was basically like, hey, what if I put a rocket on a drone? And then detailed the process to get there.
Mm-hmm. I mean, it's going to definitely make you go faster. Jeez! Can he still steer while it's firing?
He can.
That's cool.
Yes, not well, but yes.
Well, and how the rocket didn't seem like it blew for very long.
No, he's using shorter, like higher thrust, lower time, just to see like if he can get a difference in speed out of the GPS, essentially, like what the difference will be.
I mean, that sounds pretty awesome. That sounds pretty awesome, actually.
Yeah, it's cool testing. He goes through a lot of trial and error, and it's a cool result.
Yeah, rocket drone hybrid. All right, very cool. Project Air. Good work, dude.
Yeah.
Will it go 100 miles an hour? I mean, I think you should set your sights higher. You can go 100 miles an hour without a rocket.
True.
Go 1 million miles an hour. You use folding propellers so they get out of the way when the rocket fires. Anyway, you can have that one for free. Next up, a grad student, and the first time this has basically ever happened, a drone photographer has pleaded guilty to an Espionage Act, or set of Espionage Act charges. This is a very weird story. Basically, a Chinese student who was studying in the United States bought a drone and the next day flew over a bunch of U.S. Navy ships with that drone. And then, basically flew over a bunch of U.S. Navy ships with that drone and then nothing else. He crashed the drone. It was reported. They recovered the drone, found out it was only U.S. Navy ships. He had a ticket to leave on the next plane to China. Basically, everything under it was like, this is so cut and dry. They were going to charge him, and they charged him for doing this, and he pleaded guilty. He had photographed Navy vessels at multiple shipyards in Virginia. It was literally the only thing on the drone footage was multiple pictures of different shipyards, and he had no excuse for why he had done it. And yeah, I mean, you can read into stories a lot of ways, but it's hard to read this one much differently.
based on the facts that are presented, this is pretty crazy. And it seems like he was spying for China. So,
I mean, as it says here, he has not been accused of acting as a spy, just that he took photos of things he shouldn't have been taking photos with.
Yeah, they can't
but
really
the implication
prosecute him
is that he was he was spying.
Right. They figured out, I think they figured the best way to prosecute him was, instead of trying to prove he was a spy or something, you just use the Espionage Act that has literally never been used before for something like this, and used it to nail him for this. So. Yeah.
I hear about these stories sometimes, like, oh, there was so-and-so, he was a hiker in the mountains of Afghanistan or wherever, of Iran. And then they're like, oh, they arrested him and said he was a spy, and he's an innocent hiker, and he's, oh, bad. And I'm like, well, if he was a spy, wouldn't he be pretending to be an innocent hiker? I mean, like, I don't know. Everybody just assumes he's not a spy. Sometimes he's a spy.
Right.
Anyway, I don't know. Another drone show fail. Oh, I love drone show fails. That's my favorite. Well, dogs being rescued are my favorite, but this is up there.
Yeah, we haven't done one of these in a while because it's been a while since one's happened, as far as we know anyway. But I believe this is the third or fourth big failure of drones we've seen. This was a drone show over Angle Lake in Michigan. And unfortunately, some interference caused 55 drones to drop into the lake. There is video.
Epic fail for a show.
This is, oh, look at that one go. Good thing they did it over the lake.
Yeah.
It looks like a mushroom.
Oh my gosh.
I feel bad. The story says
Calling them all home.
that the company has 200 drones and 55 went in the water.
Yeah.
Like, that's a lot of drones.
They do have insurance for this, though.
Over there. I would hope so. Wow. Praise the cameraman.
That's too bad.
Yeah, he sounded real heartbroken about it.
He said basically there's nothing wrong with the drones, nothing wrong with the software. There's outside interference from some source that we do not know that blocked the GPS on some of these drones. That's what they claim. So,
Wow.
I'll just say, like, this is he says there could be a self shower that's off frequency. It could be somebody with a drone jamming gun. Okay, definitely not a drone jamming gun.
That's all.
Chances of that are basically zero. Like,
unless
it's
you're
so
like,
illegal to use.
Unless you're like in Eastern Europe, and then like apparently it's just what you do.
Right. This is in the U.S. And the cell tower frequency seems crazy that you wouldn't have detected that in testing. So, like, you would think, like, you have some system to, like, observe the RF environment in the area, and, like, I don't know. You wonder how these problems really happen.
Well, I assume that no
right?
one knows why it happens, and they're just making up those reasons. Or they know why it happens and don't want to admit it.
Right. Yeah, I mean, yeah, I'm just interested from a technical perspective of, like, were the thresholds set weirdly on the GPSs, or was there some kind of, like, yeah, I don't know. Anyway, interesting, unfortunate. They say it's about $143,000 on damage.
I'm kind of amazed that those operate solely on GPS and they don't have some kind of like ground-based, like where they set up pylons or whatever to help them, be able to navigate precisely.
You would assume, especially for the price you're paying, $2,600 a drone, you would think you'd have some kind of backup for 200 of these at that price.
I guess, I mean, I don't know the scale of those things. Maybe they're much further apart than it appears, or they probably are. But, like, I would wonder if the precision of GPS is enough to do the pictures that they're doing without any augmentation. And then if you did have augmentation, I would, like, I don't know. But I guess that's not how it works. Clearly.
I think a lot of these companies are buying off-the-shelf solutions for this, like from other companies that are selling drone show solutions. Like they're buying, like I'm going to buy 200 drones from this company that sells me drone light show drones. So I wonder how much how much technical ability they have to change things like that at that company versus others. So some design them and some just buy them. So.
Okay. All right. Well, Schadenfreude,
All right.
but at least they had insurance. Next up, we've got the world's largest RC helicopter. We can play audio for this
RC
one.
flying event in the country. And there's a whole lot of awesome giant foam airplanes out here, but not many giant foam helicopters. I want to change that.
A foam helicopter.
Not only do I want to fly a giant helicopter here, I also want to put it through combat.
Oh, that was nuts.
I'm sorry. We're not watching. I was like, okay, we're not watching a 26-minute video, though.
So if you've seen this show before, then you've probably seen Nicholas Rem show up here before. He's done many different projects. He has his own flight controller software, Drone Flight. But one of the things he did is made this big wing helicopter thing that we showed before. It's basically, a single prop, which is a bunch of propellers pushing, one big prop, right, as a giant helicopter of a drone, essentially. And he's had different versions of this, but he scaled it up and made a 4-winged version to send it to flight test.
I love how there's flight attempt 1. What means that it failed? We'll show just a little bit of this. There's a link in the video description, of course. Come on, baby. Got the old cornfield. Okay. All right. Money shot. Okay. All right. So impatient. Go. Go. Do the thing. Oh, yeah. Is it steerable? Has he got some way to steer it?
Yeah, the winglets are on servos. The wings are on servos. Yeah.
Wow.
It uses differential thrust, I think, from the propellers that are on each wing, and then it uses the tilt of the wing in combination to steer.
Wow. I can't even imagine. It must know where the propeller is.
Flight controller.
It knows where the propeller is because it has to like emulate a collective where it has more thrust on one side than the other. That's slick. He's a smart dude. Nicholas Rem. All right. Well, kudos to you, Nicholas. You're a smart cookie.
Yeah. Now we go from world's largest to one of the smallest. We've got the smallest known that I know of ELRS Hall sensor transmitter. This is kind of a can I do it sort of thing is what it seems like, but it's a cool little project. This guy basically made a transmitter that's not much bigger than 2 Hall sensor gimbals. He's even got switches on it. And it has express ELRS 100 milliwatts by using a receiver and using the receiver with a 100 milliwatt power amp to do the transmitter, instead.
Wow.
So he was able to jam it in there. Pretty cool.
Man, that's really cool.
We've got
You
a
can
link
build your
to
own, I
the-
guess.
Yeah, we've got a link to the Thingiverse with the GitHub links for the program for your Arduino Nano and TX module that he used, which was just an RX, like I said, and different kind of things like that. So, pretty cool project.
Very slick. Very slick. Tokyo Dom. That's linked down below if you want to check it out. Lastly, we're going to close out the program with my favorite type of story. Yes, you guessed it. It's a dog being rescued. Oh,
It
no.
is a dog being rescued.
Are we going to get copy struck by American ABC News for using their fucking footage? Okay, we're going to do... Sorry for cussing, guys. We're going to do still photos only. ABC seems like the kind of dickheads who would do that.
Yeah,
There's
that
the
is a
doggo.
dog. Yeah.
What happened to the doggo, Blunty?
Doggo got lost, as happens with these dogs.
Oh,
And
there
they couldn't
he
find him.
is.
And it was lost for 2 days, but they were able to get a
That's
search
a
and
long
rescue
time.
team with a drone team and get out and find him. And unfortunately, he was lost for 2 days after being hit by a car.
Oh, no. He's wounded.
So he's wounded and lost.
Oh.
And they were really worried about him, but they were able to find him with this drone and get him
yeah.
back with his family.
Oh, that poor boy. Yes, here he is getting pets. Yes. Oh, so glad.
Check out at like 116, you can see a picture.
His leg is fixed.
Yeah.
116, okay. Yeah, now he's back home. Okay. And kisses. What a good boy. Yeah, well, kudos. And USAR drone team helped find the doggo. Good job. See, Blunty, I think what Rotor Riot should have done was decided that they were going to exclusively sell equipment to people who rescue dogs. And I don't think anybody would have had a problem with that, except their shareholders. All right, well, on that note, what?
Oh, I was just going to say, any large company who did some kind of donation or program for lost dogs, you get a lot of brownie points, that's for sure.
Yeah, for sure. The doggy points. All right, folks, that is going to do it for the news this week. And we will be back in the future.
Yes.
Watch this space for when the next live stream will be scheduled. But we will be here for the regular live streams on Sunday and Monday. And,
And we'll also be here tomorrow for a Q&A. We're doing a makeup for yesterday's Q&A.
That's
We're
right.
doing a makeup tomorrow at our normal Monday time. So that is
That's right.
8 p.m. Eastern, right?
And I'll have for people who don't know why I didn't stream yesterday and will be streaming tomorrow as a makeup, I took my son to a pickup D&D game, a tabletop D&D game. He had never done tabletop gaming before, role-playing before.
How was that?
He didn't say. So first of all, there were way more people there than I expected. There were like 10 people and the DM.
Oh,
it was a big group, But the DM did a good job keeping things moving. But when there's a big table like that, it can be a little hard to get a word in edgewise. So he didn't say a lot, but he really enjoyed the storytelling. Like he was really into the story, and I think he really dug the experience and. Gave him a fighter because it's his first time playing, so just run in, bonk things, and he did in fact in the first big fight run in and bonk something, and because there were like 10 people in the party, the DM had scaled the monsters up pretty hard.
Right.
So he bonked it. He did his damage. It bonked him. He died immediately.
Oh no!
But he got up and and more things happened. We had a good time. We had a really good time. I think he really enjoyed it. So thank you guys for accommodating my schedule in that way. Yeah.
5th edition or what?
Yeah, 5e. I'm pretty sure it was 5e. Like I know some people don't like to play under 5e. I'll tell you, everything that we did made sense to me from playing Baldur's Gate 3, so I assume it was 5e.
Gotcha. I've only played 3.5, so.
Yeah, is that better?
That's like I think the classic, or at least when I was growing up, that was the classic version of it. So
yeah,
like they added all the weird, like they added like I think like you get like free saves or something. I don't know. There's a bunch of things they added, and they started doing multi-classing more than used to, and there were a bunch of changes. But I haven't played with a regular group in a long time. So.
Yeah, they gave at the end. Apparently, there's this like standardized way of representing your character, so you can play your character in different games. So at the end, they gave out these log sheets. And I don't understand how it works exactly, but apparently if you like fill out these log sheets and keep track of everything your character's done and where they got all their gear and stuff, then like, I don't know, you would like show up to a con maybe and like somebody would be running a game and you'd be like, here's my character. And they'd be like, come on in, which I'm not sure it makes sense to me because like, what if your DM is just super generous and now you're like level 8 and have all these epic shit? And yeah, it's all right here on my log sheet. I don't know how it works, but I assume it works somehow. I just don't understand it. It was kind of interesting, though. Yeah. Anyway, that's going to do it for the stream. See you guys in the next one. Bye, everybody.
All right. See ya.
Oh, no. Stop. No. We have 2 Super Chats came in at the last minute. $10 from Eric Schenkel. Thank you for the donation. $2 from Blade Outlaws. What do you think of the interview with Drew? You know what I think about the interview with Drew? But I wasn't going to address